have to on it.
Hello.
Very good evening to everyone assembled here. We are pleased to welcome you all to today's talk on relevance of spirituality in the age of technology. Human society has made rapid advances in modern science, technology, material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the world. Despite these advancements, the modern society is encountering newer challenges in tackling food and water security, world peace, health issues, climate change, and many more. On the individual front, the humans are getting more disconnected from themselves and struggling to balance body, mind, and spirit. We see advancement through science and technology, while at the same time, we see increasing complexities in modern man's life. So where is the disconnect? Are there principles or values which can help both individuals and society at large to come together in peace and harmony for a better living with higher purpose? Is there a way by which human society can coexist and make progressive advancement with people leading a life full of happiness, good health, and peace of mind? In short, is there a science of life which could transform the way we live in this world and beyond? Join us to find a way to fill this need through a talk based on science of re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Today we are very pleased to have an honored guest, speaker for today, Grace Chanchalapathi Dasa Prabhu. Grace Chanchalapathi Dasa is the Senior Vice President of ISKCON Bangalore and Vice Chairman of the Akshayapatra Foundation. Grace Chanchalapathi Dasa was born in 1963 in Bengaluru, India. While an undergraduate student in PSG College of Technology, Coimbatore, he became interested in the message and mission of Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Later, he joined the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, for a master's program in electrical communication in engineering. In 1984, he became a full-time dedicated member of ISKCON, Bangalore, and soon became the vice president. He has been involved in the implementation of various programs of ISKCON, Bangalore, and the Akshayapatra program. So let's welcome Chanchala Dasa.
Thank you very much. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militan Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 I've been asked to speak on the relevance of spirituality in an age of technology. I came across one interesting conversation, which was with Professor Charles Towns, the inventor of the laser, a Nobel Prize winner. discussion that was happening was around something like this, on relevance of spirituality. In that, he says, imagine a country with 1,000 people, say. And the natural resources and all of the other facilities that are available in that country is for 900 people. And there are 1,000 people in the country. If you want to find a scientific solution, and the objective is to see that everybody has all of the necessities of life. And if you want to solve this, a strictly scientific solution is, you have 1,000 people, you have resources for 900 people, and the objective is to see that everybody has adequate resources. A simple, straightforward scientific solution is, you eliminate 100 people, and everybody will have enough resources for everyone in the country. But obviously, no one is going to accept this kind of a solution. There is something that will prevent us. There is an ethical question. On what basis do we eliminate the 100 people? Do we have the right to eliminate the 100 people? So in other words, there are some concepts like ethics in human society which really cannot be fit in a scientific framework discussion. So his argument was that there are certain concepts, there are certain realities of life which is outside the domain of scientific investigation, about which we have to understand, we have to pay attention to. Actually, spirituality, generally speaking, people think about it is about ethics, morality, compassion, kindness for others, consideration for others, and those kind of things. Actually, the core of spirituality is not that. An outcome of spirituality is all of that. Being kind, compassionate, considerate for another individual, all of that. The core of spirituality is, spirituality comes from the word spirit. One of the ancient Indian texts, the Bhagavad Gita, it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna that happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. For those who may not be familiar with this, I'll just give a little background. Arjuna and his 4 other brothers were actually entitled for kingdom, but they were denied of their kingdom by their cousins, by an intrigue, and they had to go away to the forest. And then, when they came back from the forest, they asked their cousins to return their kingdom, or their share of the kingdom, not all of the kingdom. And the cousins were known as the Kauravas, and they would not relent. At that time, this was an epic from 5,000 years ago. So Krishna was personally present. So Krishna personally intervened and said that I'll go and talk to the Kauravas to return your share of kingdom. And the oldest in the Kauravas was Duryodhana, and he refused to give, even when Krishna came and requested. And so he was and hence the war was inevitable. So Pandavas, who had just returned from the exile, they went around rallying for their cause, and there were many kings. They supported their cause, and they said that we will make our armies available to you. And Duryodhana went around and rallied for his cause, that he does not want to give their share, the cousins' share of the kingdom. And there were many kings who empathized with him, and they said that we will give our kingdom, our armies to fight. So the two armies, the armies of the Pandavas and the armies of the Kauravas, had assembled on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And Arjuna was one of the important players in this battlefield. And Krishna was his charioteer. And Arjuna said, take me to the middle of the army, Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Stapayamya Chitta. And Krishna took the chariot in between the two armies, and Arjuna wanted to see who have assembled to fight against the Pandavas. And he looked around, and he identified his grandfather, Bhishma. Bhishma was on the side of the Kauravas, and he was there to fight. Then he looked around a little more carefully, and then he spotted Dronacharya, his own teacher, who had taught him archery. Then he looked around a little more carefully, then he identified 1, 2, 3, all his cousins had assembled there. It's kind of Arjuna became overwhelmed. What's happening? And then in the Bhagavad Gita, this is how the Bhagavad Gita begins. And Arjuna gives a series of reasons why he should not fight to Krishna. And if you analyze those reasons, they are very moral, very ethical, very human, very, very reasonable argument. Like, for example, he says, these Kauravas, my cousins, they have become overcome with greed for kingdom. And how is it that we have also become overcome with greed for our kingdom, and we are ready to fight and kill my grandfather, my teacher, and all my other cousins? Isn't there a more gracious way of dealing with this situation? Then he gives another argument. My grandfather, my teacher, they are pujarha. I must be showering flowers at their feet. Here I am standing, ready to shoot arrows at them. What's become of me? And then he gives another very long, winding reason. If this battle, if this war were to happen, many soldiers on their side and many soldiers from my side will be killed. And what will happen to their wives back at home? And I'm speaking in an ancient Vedic society. And all those women will be unprotected. And when so many women are unprotected, there will be immoral men who will commit all kinds of aggression on women, and there will be children, and those children will not have proper direction from the parents, from the father, and because of that they will go astray, take to sinful activities, and because of sin there will be so much more suffering in the society, and I will be the cause of all that suffering. A very dharmic reasoning. So actually, if you read the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you hear Arjuna's various arguments. You're almost convinced that yes, very sound reasons Arjuna is giving. How can this battle happen? And then in the second chapter onwards, Krishna begins to speak. Now Krishna begins to speak, and it is said that he spoke for about 45 minutes. And in those 45 minutes, he brings about a complete change in the paradigm, in the thinking of Arjuna. And at the end of the speaking of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Nashtra moha smritirlabha. Now all my illusion is gone. I'm ready to fight. So the interesting question is, What is it that Krishna spoke in those 45 minutes that brought about a complete turnaround in Arjuna's decision? What is the kind of an argument that Krishna presented, which was an argument that was even superior to the arguments that Arjuna had given, which was moral, ethical, human, dharmic? That is why the Bhagavad Gita is very, very special. It has a very special place in the Indian, among all of the Vedic literatures from India. He gives an argument from the point of spirituality. And that is why those arguments were superior to the arguments that we had given earlier. So what is that spirituality? Spirituality, as I said earlier, comes from the word spirit. And it's interesting how Krishna introduces the concept of spirit, brings out the understanding of spirit. Krishna says in the second chapter, Avinashitu tad vidhi ena sarvam idam tatham vinasham avyayasyasya nakaschit kartum arhasya. If I pull my hair, I feel the pain. If I step on something very sharp, I feel the pain. From head to toe, there is something that is spread in this body. That's how Krishna is saying. Avinashitu tad ena sarvam idam tatam. Sarvam tatam means spread all over the body. And that is the consciousness. It is the consciousness that is spread over the body, and that's giving me an awareness. Just like there are many chairs here, the chairs are inanimate, they have no consciousness. Whereas all of us who are seated here, we have consciousness. We have an awareness that we are here. Today it's evening now, and in a few minutes we must get back to our next whatever we have to do. We are aware. The chair is not aware that it's the end of the day, in a few minutes, the lights will be turned off, the chair has no consciousness, whereas all of us have consciousness. If there is an ant crawling, that ant has consciousness, but a lesser degree of consciousness. So, now Krishna says that consciousness which is manifest through this body, it is avinashi, means it is never destroyed. Actually, this has a very serious implication. Consciousness, we all know that this body is going to die one day. We might not have paid sufficient attention to it. We have not thought about it too much. But we know one day something's going to happen. And so, what Krishna is saying, that consciousness which was manifest through this body will survive the demise and destruction of this body. If we carefully reflect, that consciousness is what we are. It gives us an identity. It is our selfhood is ultimately resides in that consciousness. We are the conscious beings. We are the observer. We are the experiencer through this body. And that is spirit, non-matter. That's the proposition that Krishna is presenting in Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic literatures are presenting. It is non-material. It is spirit. And to know more about that spirit is about spirituality. is another analysis that Krishna does in the Gita, in another chapter, 7th chapter. Bhumi rapo nalo vayuhu kam mano buddhi rivacha ahankara mitiyam me bhinna prakriti lashtana. Krishna is analyzing this body. He says this body is made of panchabhuta elements, 5 elements. It's common in Indian thinking that the body is made of panchabhutas. When I first time read about this, I was a student in college, that the body is made of 5 elements. 5 elements are Bhumi, Apaha, Analaha, Vayuhu, Kam. Earth, water, air, fire, and space. This body is made of earthly elements. Earth, water has liquids, aqueous. And air is oxygen, carbon dioxide, breathing in and out. And there is some amount of heat, and there is a certain space that it occupies. So this body is made of this. It's very common knowledge in India that this body is analyzed this way. When I heard about it, when I read about it, I was not so impressed. I felt that this is... Because modern science says that this body is made of a skeletal system, cardiovascular system, it's made of nervous system, it's made of endocrine system. So this looks a lot more sophisticated, a lot more interesting than to say it's made of earth, water, fire. You know, the kind of thinking that I had. Actually, later on, when I continued to read the Bhagavad Gita and other literatures, it occurred to me, rather I began to realize, you know, the analysis will be different depending on your intent. Like, I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, you go to a fair, and a town fair or a village fair going on. And then you look around and then, oh, something so interesting. You are thinking, oh, my children will like this. Oh, they will enjoy this. Then it comes to your mind, I must bring my children to this, bring my family to this fair. Oh, this, my wife will like it. And then you look around, this, my wife will like this, my first son will like, my daughter will like this. And then you go home and you tell, you know, there is a good fair going on. This weekend, please keep yourself free. Let's go on. You will like this. You will explain that way. So, when you go around, your intent was that I must convince my family members to bring them. And so you analyze the fair in that way. Now let's take another example. Suppose I'm a tax collector and I've gone to the fair. Now I'll analyze, oh, here there is advertising tax. Oh, here there is some other kind of tax, whether they have paid. So as a tax collector, I will analyze the fair in one way. As somebody wanting to bring my family to this fair, I will analyze the fair in a different way. So in modern science, when this body is analyzed, it is with an intent. If something breaks down, how to fix it back and make it run again. That's the purpose of science, and the science has analyzed this body in a certain way. In Vedic literatures, the purpose of the analysis is different. The purpose of the analysis in Vedic literatures is to understand what is taking this body. What is making this body what it is. Like now, I'm speaking to you, and I'm vibrating my vocal cords. It's producing some sounds, and it's hitting your eardrums, and you're making sense out of it. And so I can probably sing, and I can entertain you, and I can speak, and I can do all of that. I can crack a joke and make all of you laugh. All of this can be going on, but suddenly something happens to me, and I die, for instance, I just collapse. Now the vocal cords are there, and many things are still, but nothing works. What was that element which was present in the body, which is making all the wonderful things that the body does? The Vedic analysis was to find out what is that. And that's the presentation that Krishna was making. It is the consciousness, and the source of the consciousness is the soul, the spirit soul. And the presence of the spirit soul makes this body animated, and the absence of the soul stops all animation in this body, and we just dispose the body. And Krishna is saying that consciousness, that spirit soul, which is inhabiting this body, is eternal. So the next question that would come to our mind, if I'm going to survive the demise and destruction of this body, because 100 years from now, we can all be sure none of us will be there in this world, even the youngest ones. And so that's the hard reality. And that consciousness which was inhabiting this body is eternal. The body may be destroyed. So what is this consciousness? What is the origin of this consciousness? Where is this coming from? Understanding that is spirituality. And it is very, very relevant. Despite all of the technological advances, like we read out something, we may have economic, technological development and all of that. But finally, these realities is what we will be confronting, and we must have an understanding of what is going on. And that is actually the core of spirituality. In fact, the core of spirituality is not even that. Not even understanding that there is consciousness in the body, inhabiting this body, and then at some point the body becomes unusable, and then the consciousness moves on. And then what happens to that consciousness, trying to understand? Because we are that consciousness. We are that conscious entity. Each one of us is a unit of consciousness, and that unit of consciousness is inhabiting in this body, and I interact with you. I can never know, and your consciousness is private to you. Unless you tell me this is what I am feeling, I never know. That's your personal, private, conscious experience. I have my private, individual, conscious experience. Each one of us is a unit of consciousness. And Krishna is saying that all of these units of consciousness are eternal. The body is destroyed sometime. So what happens to that consciousness? In other words, understanding and studying that. Now somebody may say, is there a way to understand all these things, or is it just a belief system? There is one very interesting verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Utkramantam sthitham vapi bunjanvitam bunjana gunanvitam bunjanam iva gunanvitam mudhananu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Krishna is saying how consciousness is dwelling in this body, how the consciousness leaves this body, how the consciousness is experiencing various things while it is inhabiting this body. utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvikam. Bhunjana means to experience various things through this body. How this body consciousness is experienced. Mudhananu pashyanti. Somebody who is not trained in this knowledge, in understanding, he cannot understand because pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. This can be perceived, understood, experienced and appreciated by somebody who has developed a certain understanding. Because jnana chakshusha, chakshusha means eyes, you can see with your eye, not with this eye, but jnana chakshusha, an eye of knowledge. That's the expression what Krishna is saying. In the very next verse, Krishna says something furthermore. Yatanto yoginas chainam pashyanti atmanyavastitham yatantyopyati akruthatmano nainam pashyanti achetasaha. Krishna is saying that there is a kind of a training, an understanding, knowledge, cultivation of knowledge, and training of our mind, of our consciousness, achetasaha, akruthatmano, undeveloped mind, undeveloped consciousness cannot perceive these things. And there is a system and there is a practice of development of this mind and consciousness when you will be able to perceive this reality. So in other words, Krishna is saying that there is a certain understanding, there's some concept that you should appreciate, you can understand, you can perceive it, but you have to undergo certain kind of a training. It's just like saying in science, in modern science, if you want to understand Einstein's theory of relativity or quantum mechanics, you must have some training in mathematics. You must know differential equations, you must know differential calculus. If you don't know those things, you cannot forget, you cannot understand. Again, just some common man, you can have some understanding. But a common man like me, I may have some understanding of Einstein's theory, but somebody who is trained in that, how much more depth and understanding they would have. So in other words, unless we are trained in a certain way, we will not be able to perceive it. But if we are trained, we can perceive it. The truth about spiritual, the truth about spirit, the truth about the soul, spirit soul. As I said earlier, spirituality is not even about understanding the spirit. It is about understanding the origin of the spirit. Where is the spirit coming from? The origin is important. Today in modern world, we set aside a day called the Mother's Day. We set aside a day called the Father's Day. And we think about our mother and maybe send a present to her or some message, some greetings, or to the father. Why is that? Because, and that's a practice of the civilized world. Right? At least one day you must think about your father, you think about your mother, and be grateful for what they have given to us. So they took care of us when we were helpless as small babies and small children, and they brought us up, and so we owe it to them. Actually, even more than that, we owe it to them because they caused us. Our existence is because of the existence of our parents. If they did not exist, we would not be existing here. It's so important. They are our cause or the origin. From Vedic analysis, they are the cause, but they are not the ultimate cause. They are a part of the cause. If you argue, no, the parents are the complete cause of me, then I'll ask a question. If there is a blind child Why did the parents create the child blind? And even the parents will say, so sorry about it. It was not in our control. So the parents are the cause, but they are one of the multiple causes. There are multiple causes, and they are one of them. So when you recognize the parents as the cause, even if they are partial cause, and we are supposed to recognize, and if we don't recognize, we are considered to be what kind of an uncivilized man he is. He doesn't care, he does not acknowledge the father and the mother. In every advanced society, intellectually, culturally sensitive and advanced society, there will be a recognition of the role of father and mother. Because they have caused us. Actually, they have caused. If you analyze this world, this is another very interesting analysis. I will not go into the details of it. According to Vedic philosophy, if you see an effect, there are multiple causes. I am an effect, and the causes, multiple causes, one of them is my parents. There are other causes, I will not go into that. Another thing that the Vedic philosophy teaches is that if you see there is an effect and there is a cause, if you analyze that cause carefully, the cause itself is an effect of another cause. A simple example. Suppose I feel some cool breeze. I ask, what's the cause of this cool breeze? So there's an air conditioner. Now I can ask the question, oh, air conditioner is the cause and the effect is the cool breeze. Now I can ask the question, what is the cause of the air conditioner? And the air conditioner's cause is, maybe you would say, electricity. So electricity is causing the air conditioner to run, and the air conditioner is producing the cool breeze, and I'm experiencing. So you can see there is a chain of causes, and its cause, and its cause. You can analyze. The Vedic philosophy asks the question, what is the ultimate cause? Actually, our appetite to know the cause and its cause is a function of our enlightenment. I'll give you one quick example. When I was a college student like you, I was also studying in a hostel. And this was nearly 35 years back. So, during the first week of every month, in our college hostel where I used to stay, there would be a man wearing a brown dress, uniform, and he would come and he would open a piece of paper and call out different students' name, and we would all be eager to hear if our name is called out. And if our name is called out, he will take our signature and he will give us some money. And that money was very important because we had to pay the mess bill, the hostel, and which would allow me to stay for one more month, and so on. And if your name is not called out, you would be a little bit disappointed, and then he would go away. And next day again, he would come, and you are waiting whether your name is called out. There was a system in India, I don't know if it's there in America or not, called money order. This man was a postman. He would bring, and he would read out the name, and he would give the money, and that money was very important. Now, imagine a situation. I look at this, every month this man comes and he calls out the names and I get the money, and with that money I pay the mess bill and I get to stay for another month. This man is so important. I go to him and, hey, such a nice man you are. Every month you come and you give me the money. So wonderful you are. And already you are seeing there is something wrong with this. Right? He is giving that money because my father had deposited that money in the post office, and then the money traveled from that city to this city, and the postman came and gave this money. If I recognize this postman as the cause, and I don't recognize its cause, I'm foolish. Of Of course, I can be thankful to him. Thank you very much, postman, you brought me this money. Thank you very much. And then I must call and tell my father, oh, I should be so grateful to my father because he deposited that money. So when you see the cause and don't see its cause and the complete, you would be stupid. So there is a verse in the Gita, Krishna says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma. When one has cultivated knowledge, this knowledge of spirituality, the spiritual knowledge, he or she becomes interested to know the ultimate cause. Your hunger, your appetite, your eagerness to know. I must know the cause. I must know the ultimate cause. Because I'm seeing here, I'm here what I am because of that cause. That ultimate cause. If that ultimate cause had not triggered, I would not be existing here. So how important it is to know the ultimate cause and what is my relation. Just like we have our parents are our cause and we have a relation with our parents. In the same way, if there is an ultimate cause which has caused us, what is my relation with the ultimate cause? So understanding the ultimate cause, understanding our own true nature. Our true nature is that this body is a mortal frame in which we are inhabiting in the form of consciousness, unit of consciousness. I am not this body, but I am a unit of consciousness inhabiting this body. I relinquish this body one day and I move on, and the spirit moves according to certain laws. There are certain laws which govern the movement of consciousness from one body to another, one situation to another. Understanding all of that and understanding where is this consciousness coming from, all of this constitutes the spirituality. And when Krishna presented this perspective to Arjuna and pointed out what is Arjuna's duty in this, from this perspective, and how Krishna had actually wanted this battle to happen and what was Krishna's role in it, suddenly Arjuna became, now I'm ready, I'm convinced about it. I thought that it was a family feud. I didn't know, Krishna, you have a purpose in this and you have a role to play. You have a cosmic purpose behind this and you wanted me to play a small role. I didn't know that. Now I understand. I'm ready to fight. So this was the kind of a paradigm change that Krishna brought about. And that's why Gita is considered to be very special, because in a very succinct manner, in 45 minutes, the most important philosophy, this is actually called in Sanskrit Vedanta. Veda means knowledge and Anta means end or ultimate. So this is the ultimate of knowledge, to know who we are, to know what is our ultimate source, to know what this world is all about. In other words, to understand the purpose of this world, purpose of our existence. And there is a very, very cogent philosophical description in the Vedic literatures. And to understand that and appreciate that is spirituality, and this is always relevant. It's just that somehow we become involved and overly involved in certain things. We set aside all the important things of life, but actually this is the most important thing, to know who we are, why we have come into this world, what is the purpose of creation. In fact, even in modern science, these are the most important questions that even science is seeking. What is the purpose? Why do we exist? Why the universe exists the way it is? These are the deep questions in any system of knowledge. And there is a very interesting philosophy and an explanation given in the ancient texts from India known as the Vedas. And so it's very important and interesting to know about this, and it will only enrich our lives. And one last point. Someone may say, I'm busy with so many things in life. I'm a student, and I may be tomorrow I may become an entrepreneur, I may become a businessman, I may become a professional, and I'm a teacher, I'm whatever. Where is the time for me to do all this? Actually, this philosophy was taught by Krishna to Arjuna in the battlefield. It was not taught in the Himalayas. It was not taught on the banks of serene rivers. And it was not taught in the forest. It was taught on the battlefield. Because the situation in the battlefield is very, very demanding. Right? You have to be very alert. Imagine in the battlefield how it is. It's about life and death. Even in that kind of a situation, one can practice the spirituality that Krishna taught to Arjuna. And our lives are definitely not as demanding and taxing as life would be in a battlefield. So we cannot give an excuse that we cannot explore this and understand this. And as human beings, we have the capability to run our lives on multiple tracks. Like someone could be a businessman, but he also is a father, and he's a husband. So he runs a personal life track, he runs a professional life track, and he may have some hobbies, some music or something, interest in something. He'll be learning music, he'll have some special interest track. So we run our lives on multiple tracks. So we can also initiate another track called the spirituality track and learn and understand a few things about that while we are doing other things. We can run our lives on multiple tracks. As human beings, we are capable of that. Just that sometimes you will be intensely involved in one track and may for some time keep aside the other track activities. Sometimes when you get a little time, you intensify this, and we all do that. So, we can initiate a track of spiritual development while we are doing other things, and only enrich our lives with this understanding. And Krishna says, one who understands this knowledge, even if there is the greatest difficulties and challenges, one will know how to face that. One will not be affected by those things. So it is so important for us in this world. While our life takes different turns and twists, how we can remain composed and how we can remain peaceful internally, even though externally we have to battle with and address those things. Because Arjuna was following that. He was externally fighting a battle. But internally he had learned that there was a certain understanding that Krishna had taught him, by which he was experiencing inner joy and inner composure. So this is what spirituality provides. It gives us a purpose in life. It enriches our life and helps us to face all of the challenges that one may have. With this I will close. And if anyone has any questions, I'll try to answer. Yes, please.
Actually, I'm a pilot and basically from New Delhi.
Oh, very good.
I have a question. We see a lot of increase in population, and we know that this number of souls that we have in the form of human beings, they are increasing multiple. So, and a lot of souls are not in a very good condition because of a lot of because we don't have access to a lot of facilities that people who have those facilities.
Yeah.
So, where are those souls? What is the origin of those souls?
Okay.
Because souls
because we talked about soul, quite often we come across this question about the population increasing, human population, and how the new souls are coming up and what's happening. You see, if you take the count of number of souls, the number is too big. If you take a glass of water, there are innumerable microbes in there, not harmful microbes. Every microbe has a soul. In a glass of water, there are about, if I remember right, 5 million microbes. 5 million souls are there. So, when you consider that way, you take the ocean of water, how many souls are there? The number is so huge, it's not difficult to explain the increase in human population, which is just 5 billion to 7 billion, just 2 billion. It's relatively non-issue. Say for instance, you take a leaf. The leaf has many plant cells. Each cell is a living cell, and each cell has a soul. Even in this body, in our bodies, there are many cells. Each cell has an Atma. And there is an overall one Atma, which is what I am. I'm taking advantage of this body, but there are many, many souls. So the number of souls are so huge. Don't have to worry about this. That's number one. Your second question was the concern that why some souls are, some people are born in some very, very unfortunate situations in the world, even today, where they have no access to basic things. So in other words, very sensitive question, very important question. So why some souls are born in some very, very privileged situations, and why some souls are born in some very, very unprivileged situations? Why is this happening? In other words, we must understand what is the basis on which some souls are born in an affluent situation and some souls are born in a very, very miserable situation. Why this is happening? What decides these things? What is the law that governs these things? This is an important question that we must ask. I remember one small story I'll tell you. This happened to me. I'm sure that as I tell you this story, you will all recall. I was in India, back in India, and it was the front page news that said, Mark Zuckerberg, billionaire, founder of Facebook, he just had a child, and there was news, and then he with his wife carrying the small baby, a happy face, and then it said, Mark he's such a rich man, and now he had a child born. Important news, it came even in India. On that particular day, I remember this, on the front page of the newspaper, there was another photograph of a woman. She's holding on to the hand of somebody who looks a little older than her, and that man is holding a bundle in his hand. Both of them are wading through hip-deep water in another city in our country, in Chennai. There was flood, and the maternity home in the maternity hospital was flooded, and she gave birth to a child the previous day, and she was told, please take your child and go home. We can't take care. So that's what her father is holding on to that, and she's holding, and then they're wading through water. Now when I read that, I read in the top was about Mark, and then he's having, look at this situation. There is one child born in California to a father and mother who are billionaires. And another child is born in India whose parents can't provide basic maternal care the second day of the child's birth. This is hard reality. What's happening? Why is the child born there? Why is the child born here? What is going on? And it is so relevant because in less than 100 years, we will be facing a situation like that. Where will this soul be? Where will we go? What governs these things? There are laws that govern these things. You know, a lot of people saw apple falling from a tree. They picked up and ate it. But there was one man who started thinking a little deeply. Why did the apple fall? Why did it go up somewhere? And then we all know that led to the discovery of the law of gravity. The law of gravity was working prior to Newton and after Newton. It's always there. But there was no understanding of the law. There was that wise man who started thinking and discovered that there is a law that governs the movement of an apple as it detaches from a tree, or for that matter, everything else. So that led to the discovery and understanding of that law. In the same way, actually, this is a fundamental truth of science and technology today. There are laws of nature which are operating everywhere. And these are not arbitrary laws. They are fixed laws. And they are mathematically accurate laws. And it is because of that we have the entire technology happening. That's the basis. All of the bulbs are giving light. The microphone is working. Your mobile phones are working. It's because there are laws of nature. And there are laws of nature which can be expressed in mathematical equations because they are so accurate and they never change and they are very dependable, and we are able to manipulate. Knowing those laws of nature, we are able to manipulate matter and energy to our convenience, all that we have in the form of technology. So laws of nature are ubiquitous, operating everywhere. Every corner of the universe. Recently we read that the scientists did some research and found that Einstein's theory, general theory of relativity, is working in some very, very distant part of the universe. It's working everywhere. Science is constantly affirming that. If that is true, a certain soul is born in California, a certain soul is born in Afghanistan, a certain soul is born in Africa, somebody in India. Is there a law that governs this? Shouldn't we know that? What is operating all of this? Shouldn't we know that? This is spirituality. It is just that. A right trigger is not given to us that we have to ask this question, is spirituality relevant today? It is the most relevant thing. We must know. Because it's one of the laws of nature. Is it relevant to know the laws of gravity? Is it relevant to know the laws of electricity, electromagnetism? It is very relevant. Because some scientists applied their minds and worked hard, understanding that we have what we have today in the form of modern technology. So, understanding these laws of nature is very, very relevant. It only enriches our life and understanding of our life. So, there are certain laws. I won't go into that one today, but I just want to leave with you on the thought that there is a very, very profound law. I'll tell you another thing. Spirituality is not about knowing that law. It's asking the question, why am I being governed by those laws? Is there a way by which I can be free from all of the laws? The child who was born in an unfortunate situation didn't have a choice. Did anybody, where do you want to, did any of you get an option? You had to tick where you want to be born, India, America, Africa. None of us ticked that box. We were born somewhere. Some were born in America, some in India, some in Afghanistan, some other part of the world. Someone was born as men, some was male, some were born as female. We had no choice. Some had white skin, some had dark skin, some had brown skin. Did we have a choice? So what is governing all these things? We must know. This is spirituality. So there is a corpus of knowledge that was understood, appreciated, practiced thousands of years in India. And that knowledge can improve the lives of people everywhere in the world. It's not about a religion, a denomination, a sectarian view. It's this corpus of knowledge were called the Vedas. And as I mentioned earlier, in Sanskrit the word Veda means knowledge. Knowledge is to be shared with everyone. And that is the intent of the original compilers of this knowledge in India. And they said that this knowledge should be shared with the rest of the world so that it will benefit everyone. But it was deeply locked up in a language called Sanskrit. The world did not know about it. And so now it's available in a way that we can all read and understand in English and many other languages. Is that okay? Yes, please.
I understand the relevance of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
In today's day and age, is there a way we can sort of read or understand or study it quickly without having to necessarily go to a class or something of that sort? We're in an app-driven age today. So
Okay.
what is your recommendation for something like that?
Okay. Very good. Yes, truly, this knowledge is very vast. It requires many years of applying to your mind and understanding all of it. Is there a way very quickly we can do? Yeah, there are. There is my spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He wrote, translated this Sanskrit books into English. And in the Bhagavad Gita that he wrote, there is an introduction to the Gita, which is about 30 pages. So in that 30 pages, maybe you can read over a weekend, not too much. The Bhagavad Gita is about 800 pages. The 30 pages of the introduction gives a fairly good view of the whole thing and helps to get a little quick understanding. And that may trigger your curiosity to know more, and you can spend more time gradually to read. So I would say the introduction, which is about 30, 35 pages, is a good way to start. And there are ways we can help you out to get access to that. Close?
It was a very wonderful experience to hear His Grace Chanchalapathi Dasa Prabhu. The speech brought out some of the very fundamental understanding of consciousness and souls and the relevance of spiritual pursuit in our lives. Thank you so much for sharing your understanding and the importance of this basic spiritual experience and the need for pursuit. On behalf of the Origin Club MIT, I would like to thank Sadananda Dasa Prabhu and Reverend Christian Boswell Ford, chaplain to the Institute and Director of Religious Life. It would have been very difficult to organize this event without the support of Reverend Christian Boswell Ford and the MIT Religious Life. Now I would like to invite Reverend Christian Boswell Ford to give a brief vote of thanks.
I think you've already said the words of thanks. Just a wonderful delve into knowledge that is so important to all of us in how we seek to balance the understanding and the importance of understanding our spirituality in this secular work that we're also doing here at MIT. How those paths can be parallel to each other are both so important. So thank you very much. It's very informative for me and hopefully for
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We have light sattvic vegetarian food just outside the exit. And thank you so much again. And if you have any more questions, our speaker will be available to answer them.